Let's start. Today we're basically primarily talking about graduate programs in journalism and communications in the US. And I'll start off a little bit, start off with telling you a little bit about Education USA. Some of you have heard of us, some of you have been attending our webinars, and for those of you who are new, Education USA is basically supported by the US State Department. So we are an organization that is present in 7 cities in the country, Delhi being the headquarters, and we are here basically to give you information that's accurate, that's comprehensive, correct, and most importantly unbiased, information on US higher education. And we're present in 170 countries with over 400 centers across the world. And we bring to you many services in forms of sessions, events, essay workshops, things like that. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can, walk into any of our centers, talk to our advisors, and get started on your application process. So today we're going to be talking about programs in journalism and communications, which is a massive field in the US, of course. Now, just to start with, why would anybody want to go and study in the US? It's almost a question, a rhetoric question now. There are about 132,000 plus Indian students in the United States doing all kinds of programs, undergraduate and graduate. So obviously the US is, it's like a magnet for students in terms of the quality of education that is provided. The reputation of universities are known for their academic excellence, value for studies, and flexibility. So even in the program today for communications and journalism, if you go just look at even 10 universities and their websites, you'll see the kind of flexibility and the kind of variety of topics and the subjects that you can study, courses, in this particular area even, right? So moving on. Now, we understand that this process can get a little overwhelming for students. It can get sometimes overwhelming for us advisors as well. So in order to make life a little bit more organized, we have divided the application process into 5 steps. Okay, so everything that we do at Education USA is centered around these 5 steps. So the first step is, of course, researching your options. Before you even begin with writing your essays, doing your GREs, etc., you must first find out the kind of options that are available to you. All right. Now, when I was talking about the kind of flexibility that you have, there are many options out there. How does one know which one is the right one for me? All right. Second step is financing your education. Obviously, finances is a big factor for a lot of students, and you need to understand where you can get your finances. How do you actually devise your plan to pay for your education in the United States? And thirdly, of course, we come down to actually doing your application. So after having done the crucial bit of brainstorming, shortlisting, defining your priorities, you then come down to actually doing the application. And then finally, you apply for your visa. And once you do get your visa, you prepare for your departure. So today's topic is going to actually, we're going to touch upon all these 5 steps today. Basically, let's dive a little bit into the, US higher education landscape and what does it look like. Obviously, it's a little different from ours, and there will be some similarities as well. But basically, there are 2 intakes for international students. The regular intake for international students is usually the fall intake. So the fall intake starts somewhere in August, September, when the classes begin. And the spring intake starts somewhere in January. So you can apply for either of these. But of course, most international students will apply for the fall intake, as courses, scholarships, these kind of things are easily and more readily available during fall. There are universities that do offer spring intake. If you're interested in applying for the spring intake, please check the university website to see if they even offer you a spring intake and what kind of courses get offered in spring. Rolling admissions is basically where there is no particular deadline. It's basically on first come, first serve, and the earlier you apply, the better for that particular university. Now, the kinds of institutions in the United States, again, there's a wide variety of the kinds of colleges and universities that you can apply to. So, of course, broadly, you would divide them into public and private universities. But, under those also, you would have, say, research-oriented university. There are different kinds of specialized schools that are aimed towards certain kinds of subjects and courses. So as a student, I have a huge, range of options to choose from. So one should actually even begin from these kind of questions as to what kind of a school am I looking at. Okay. Now, graduate study is basically anything that, in the United States, it can be a master's program, which is for about a year or two. You could also go in for a PhD program, which is from 3 to 5 years. And certain universities will also give you integrated programs. So they could be a master's plus a PhD program as well. Okay. Now, the criteria for these will differ. The coursework, the course load will differ. So, and you obviously have to choose one according to your, priorities. So, it's very important, students, to firstly, at the beginning itself, to understand how does one actually shortlist these universities. If there are so many options out there, then how does one decide? So, in step one, which is researching your options, you're basically what you're doing is you're trying to understand which kind of courses do I want to go in for, and where are the universities, which ones can I choose, where I can do these courses from. Now we say that it takes about 12 to 18 months to at least, sometimes do this, to be on this particular step. And students will wonder sometimes, 12 to 18 months seems like a, tad bit too long for this process. But we find that a lot of students will skip this process, this step, or they will do it in a hurry. But this is actually a very, very important step in deciding the right fit for yourself. And the more you get to know about US universities' application process, the more you'll understand that universities are not just looking for students, they have a certain kind of profile and whether they will get admitted. They want to see which student is a good fit for their university. All right. So it's very, very important to understand if you are a good fit for that particular university and vice versa as well. So it's very important to create a list of priorities or criteria which are important to you. Okay, because you certainly are different from your friend, from the third student who's going to apply to that university, and it's very, very important that you define your priorities first. Okay, and these priorities, these factors will actually determine your school search. All right. Now there are about 4,000 plus degree granting institutions in the US. Now, how does one actually choose from these 4,000 plus colleges? So it's very important to define priorities, and that will help you to narrow down your choices. We advise students to sometimes start their search. You could have a short list of say 20 universities, sometimes 25. And then of course we help you narrow it down to the 7 or 8 that you'll apply to, or the 10 that you'll apply to. All right. And it's advisable that students apply to a mix of schools. Yes, we have heard of the the typical, there are certain names that we all know of, and students would certainly look to apply to those schools. But if you're serious about getting a good quality education in the US, then it's important that you look at a mix of schools, because there are so many universities out there which offer you really good quality programs, which probably you haven't heard of and haven't come across yet. And it's only when you look at their websites, when you talk to their admissions officers or students studying at those universities, then you realize that, okay, this could actually be an option for me. So do not limit your options to those 10 or 15 universities you've heard of. It's advisable that you think about other universities as well. Then, of course, once you have kind of figured out, okay, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to look for in a university, then look at the requirements. Okay, what is required to apply? Do I have those requirements? Do I make that cut? Okay, make a note of all the deadlines and then start working backwards, because then you know, okay, I realistically need say 2 months for my test preparation, or I need about this much time to get transcripts from my university, get my letters of recommendations. So look at deadlines. These could be deadlines. Obviously, your application deadline is the most important one. Also, some universities will have financial deadlines. If you're looking to apply for a scholarship or any aid of any sort, then there might be deadlines for that as well. So please note those and then start working backwards and make a checklist of things that you need to do in order to complete your application for a US university. A very important factor is also to know your budget. I think it's very important that students start with some idea of how much they would be able to, contribute. It could be family contribution, it could be personal savings. Understand that, kind of have that conversation with your parents or the providers, whoever it is, and have that conversation, because you need to kind of, start with something. And when you're looking at applying to a US university, students, it's very important to remember it's not just the tuition cost, it's also the living expenses. And I would go a step further and also think about application costs. So your university, tests are going to cost you. There's going to be a visa fee. There's going to be a service fee. So all of this included would also include, your total cost. But primarily, do look at tuition and living expenses, and then decide your budget. Budget can obviously will be a very big factor in helping you shortlist universities. Okay. Um, Now, if you had to study journalism and communication, which is what we're going to be talking about today, um, like trust me, when you just look at even 5 university websites, you'll realize that it's the kind of choice that you have is enormous. Okay. Now, studying journalism and communication, this field is constantly growing. Okay, we know our regular, modes of media, which is obviously radio and television, which come under broadcast journalism. There's obviously the very traditional print journalism, which is newspapers and magazines. Now we're moving into an era where we're totally, reliant on our online journalism. So a lot of us, are now reading our news on websites, on blogs, on, social media platforms. So obviously online newspapers, magazines, blogs, and all of these platforms are springing about, and people are using those to get their communication and their news and their information from. So obviously with the changing scenario in the market, universities and colleges are also looking to have courses which are, which prepare students for jobs and careers in the market today. The other thing is, when you think of journalism and communication, it's a broad area. Now, one could divide it into, broadcast journalism, which is radio, television. Some universities will also have programs in film, or media studies. Then, of course, there's print journalism. But another big component of communication is public relations. Okay. Now, public relations broadly has advertising, brand management, and strategic communication. A lot of universities will have overlapping or interdisciplinary courses, having courses from journalism and having courses from public relations, or they could just have standalone flagship courses just for either of these subject areas. There are other specializations that you can go in for. So there's photojournalism, there's sports journalism, environmental, fashion is a very big one. Health journalism, okay, political journalism, there's food writing, fashion writing, there's technical writing, even to the extent that there's war journalism as well. So there are quite a few options available, and one as a student needs to understand what is it that I want to do. What do I see myself doing, say, even 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line? What kind of career do I want to have? And then accordingly choose a course for yourself. All right. We're experiencing a little bit of a technical snag in the internet today. There's the rains are kind of affecting our communication here. Moving on to the graduate degrees that are available in journalism and communication. So as a student, what you can do is after your bachelor's program in the US, you can straight go for, say, a master's of arts or a science in, say, particular journalism or public relations or advertising, etc. Okay, now this is basically you'll have coursework which might be followed by a thesis or an internship. Now some programs will have a thesis, some might not have a thesis. So it could be a thesis track or it could be a non-thesis track. Now if for someone like, if someone wants to do research or get into academia, doing a thesis might be of value. Okay, so you need to understand that as well, that do I require, do I want a degree which is going to prepare me for academia or research, or do I want a degree that is going to prepare me for the industry? Okay, so accordingly you will choose your courses, your degrees. The other thing is you can also do an integrated PhD. This is a master's plus PhD program, and it is directly after your bachelor's. So it could be anywhere between 5 to 7 years. Then you also have a standalone, of course, a PhD or a doctorate, which you can complete, if you're having done your master's here, and then you go on to do your PhD. Now, PhD obviously is, anywhere between 3 to 5 years, and you will require to do a dissertation. So there's a lot of research involved in doing a PhD. Now, there are some universities out there that provide what is called dual degrees. Okay, now say for example somebody is interested in legal journalism, okay, or somebody is interested in say public health and health journalism. Then there are some universities that provide you say a Juris Doctor plus a master's in journalism and law. Okay, so a JD, or the Juris Doctor, is a law degree, but you combine it with a degree in say masters in journalism, and that could be something that some students might be interested in. Similarly, you have a master's in journalism plus a master's in public health. That's again a dual degree. Okay, so many a times 2 colleges at the university will offer this particular dual degree, and they will have their own different set of criteria. So for somebody who's looking at the different kinds of journalism that is coming up now, you can also look at these dual degrees. And like I said, there are a lot of options out there. So please choose your coursework very carefully. And in case you think that you do not really understand the scope of the degree, please read up the website of the university. And it's advisable to sometimes write to a few professors and get an understanding of what exactly entails, what exactly does that particular degree or the coursework entail, and what kind of jobs or what are people doing after they graduate. That's another very good way to understand whether I want to choose this particular degree or not, or this particular coursework or not. Okay. Now, what are universities usually looking at for journalism students? And they're obviously looking at excellent communication skills, especially if you're getting to things like journalism. If it's written, even if it's public relations, if you're going to be a strategic communicator in an organization, you obviously need to have excellent communication skills. And an inquisitive nature is also required. So if any of your, your experiences, your research activities, your interests can demonstrate that, then that's something that the universities find valuable. Ability to work under pressure and ability to meet deadlines. So these are some of the skill sets that universities are looking for in students who are going in for programs in journalism and communication. Okay. Now, choosing a school that is the best fit. Now, this term best fit, if you interact with EducationUSA specifically, you will hear this term best fit spoken of very often. And many a times students are, at a loss of, they don't really get what best fit means in the first go. So we'll talk a little bit about how one should find the best fit. Okay, but many factors come into play. So for example, if you're interested in say getting any kind of practical training or wanting to get an internship while you're still studying, then a lot of times the location becomes very important, or where the industry is centered in the US becomes very important. So say if you're looking to do some kind of political journalism, maybe Washington DC is a better area. Technology, Silicon Valley. For example, New York City is, you have all it's a financial hub. So it becomes easier maybe, or it becomes a little, networking opportunities increase. You can network with news outlets and journalists in the industry more easily if you say work in certain kinds of locations. So this is also another factor that you should include in your school search when you're thinking about finding the best university, the best fit for yourself, right? So now, how does one shortlist universities to find the best fit? This takes a little bit of time, and this takes a little bit of effort on the student's part, and also obviously it requires a lot of research. So firstly, understand what field of study you want to study. Now, just talking about journalism communication, what exactly am I going to be studying? Okay, like I was mentioning a little earlier, what kinds of jobs or what kinds of careers can I get into when I do this particular coursework? Okay, so these are the kind of questions you need to ask yourself. Okay, Is there any specialization that I want to do? Do I want to do a general sort of a degree? Do I want to specialize in a particular area? Do I want to combine it with something else at a US university? These are the kind of questions you must ask yourself. The second option, factor is accreditation. This is very, very important, students, and you must check if your university and program that you're applying to is accredited. Accredited is basically recognized, okay? Like how we in India would say it's UGC recognized or it's NAC accredited. It's very important to find a university and a program which has a relevant accreditation. So then you can, understand that, okay, some amount of assurity of the quality of the program is there. So very important to look at accreditation. We'll give you the website for the accreditation where you can check, if your university and the program is accredited. Also look at acceptance rates. So how difficult or easy is it for us to get admissions into this, into this particular program at that particular university? So some universities have acceptance rates, like say 6% or 12%. Those are really selective schools. Some would have, say, about 28% or 35%. So you get a fair idea. Okay. Also, for a lot of students, you probably wouldn't think about this, but the size of the institution or the department is very, very important. So, for some of us, we would thrive in an environment where we're, say, one professor to, say, 100 students. Okay, you want that sort of diversity. You want those sort of conversations. For some students, it might be a better fit to have, say, a ratio of faculty students to say 20 students to one professor. You want to have that sort of an intimate sort of an environment where you can network easily. Your professor knows you. So it's very important to understand that as a student, as a learner, what is a good fit for me. Okay. Also look at faculty profile. So at the grad level, especially because you want to say get into a particular area of research, maybe you want to focus on a particular subject area. So it's also very important to understand what is the faculty, like, what areas of research or what areas are they focusing on as well. Obviously, cost and financial aid is a very, very big factor. So how much is it going to cost me and how can I finance my education? Also, for some students, research facilities become very important. Okay, in terms of journalism and communication, maybe you'll also want to look at internship opportunities. Maybe you'll want to look at networking opportunities. So look at these kind of opportunities present at the university and how can you avail of those opportunities. We were talking a little bit about the geographical location and how it can determine a lot of things for you. So for example, of course, location would determine, obviously how cold or hot it is and how comfortable are you living in that environment. But more importantly, the industry. So where is the industry focused? And, in terms of internship opportunities, networking opportunities. Also, third thing with the location is the cost. So say for an urban university, which is set in the city, especially cities like, say, somewhere in California or say New York, these cities can get very expensive. So automatically your living expenses rises. So your cost of course rises. Say as as opposed to say an urban, a rural setup or a semi-urban setup, the living expenses could vary considerably from a larger university. So overall your cost of attendance can increase or decrease depending on the location as well. So this is another very, very important factor. And of course, services for international students at a university, the housing, the campus setting. So all of this could also be very, very important factors. Now, many a times we find that students would just look at, how much is the GRE requirement or the rankings of these universities. So yes, we also, we know that students will look at rankings and that's all right. But please treat these rankings as indicators only, because this should not be the only factor on which you base your shortlist on. It is a mix of all of these factors that we've just spoken of right now. You should be thinking about from that perspective and not just rankings. That is certainly not the right way to go about, looking at universities in the US. All right. Now, on our website, educationusa.state.gov, we have something called the Define Your Priorities worksheet. You don't have to even download that worksheet. You can just look at it and actually answer those questions orally. Those questions kind of give you a starting point to think about what is important to you when you are shortlisting universities. So please look at that website as well. We'll give you the website shortly. Step two is, of course, financing your studies. How are you going to pay for your education? All right. Now, this is something that goes, it's an ongoing process, and basically you need to prepare your budget. So like I mentioned, you need to think about cost of attendance from the perspective of the tuition and the living expenses. So look at both of them. You can use a net price calculator, which is available online. If you just Google net price calculator, even some universities have it on their websites. You can get an estimate of how much would be the cost of attendance. Okay, it asks you certain questions and you can get an idea. Also look at sources of funding. Now, obviously, there's funding available at graduate level in the United States. Of course, it is competitive, it is selective. There will be a lot of students applying for the same funding that you are applying for. So, apply carefully. There are fellowships available. Some universities will obviously have merit scholarships. Some universities will also offer you something called assistantships. Now, this is also a source of funding which the university gives the student. So if I apply for something called a teaching assistantship, I will be assisting a professor at the university, and I get paid for that service at the university. Okay. Similarly, there's something called research assistantships. So an RA is somebody who assists a professor in their research. Okay. So again, you get a stipend or you get a payment for that particular service. There are other kinds of assistantships and tutorships that you can do. So for example, some students can also, apply to be resident tutors. So these are students who probably will take care of the undergraduate dorms, etc. And maybe some universities, your accommodation fees will be subsidized, or you'll be exempt of that fees completely. Okay. So you need to look at what are the kind of sources of funding available at the university. And to find out this information, your first primary contact should be the university. Okay, look at the university website very carefully, and then look at other options. Okay, now another thing is the OPT and CPT. OPT is the optional practical training, and CPT is curricular practical training. We'll speak a little bit more in detail in the next slide about how you can avail of the OPT and CPT while you're studying in the United States. We also have the financial data tables that we compile at EducationUSA. This is a list of your students who are going to the US, and it gives you a little bit of their profile as to their GRE scores, etc., work experience, and which university did they get admitted to, what was the cost of attendance, and how much funding is the university giving them. So it's a very important tool to understand trends in funding, and it can be a very, very good tool to shortlist universities. This table is available in all our centers at EducationUSA. Okay. If you're applying for any kind of financial aid, the first thing, like I told you, is to check the university website. Okay. There might be certain specific forms that you'll have to fill out for applying to apply for financial aid. Please check these details very carefully, and as I had mentioned earlier, there might be an earlier deadline for this as well, so check those details carefully. Overall, private universities tend to give more financial aid as compared to public or state universities, because at the state schools, at public schools, the fees is subsidized considerably. So the private universities also have that kind of the grants, the funding to give as financial aid to international students. And the universities will also eventually ask you for financial documents. So there's a list of financial documents that universities accept. Most universities give out this list on their websites. You can also check them, to start kind of preparing your proof of finances. Now, when coming to OPT and CPT, now by the law, you can get an opportunity to get practical training on your student visa while you're studying in the United States. Okay, so while you're studying, basically it's called curricular practical training. So firstly, you can work up to 20 hours per week during your term time and 40 hours during vacation time. Okay, you could do this work on or off campus. Now, any work that is related, or any practical training that is related to your field of study, that can qualify as, it will come under CPT. Now there's someone called the designated school official on campus, and you will need to work with them very closely on your CPT and OPT. Okay, so they will very clearly tell you what can be qualified as CPT and OPT. Now, once you have completed a degree, students are allowed to get up to 12 months in their area of training. Now, remember, students, this is not some random work that you will do. This is related to your field of subject. Okay, and for STEM subjects, students who are doing sciences, technology, engineering, or math subjects, now the rules are that you can get up to 36 months extension. So basically, up to 3 years for STEM students, you can try and get opportunities for practical training in the United States on your student visa. Now, this is something that it's legal, okay? So obviously, please do not flout these laws and these rules, and work very closely with your designated school official on understanding what you can do on your OPT and CPT, all right? We do hold sessions on OPT and CPT as well, which are focused primarily on this particular topic. Now, coming to your actual application, when you've done all your hard work of research, you've actually had a look at everything that's possible, defined your priorities, and then you can, you're ready to take an informed decision. So now it actually comes down to completing your application. This also starts about a year, sometimes a year and a half prior to your actual program start date. And many students who are in their bachelor's programs, for example, if you're doing a 3-year degree, they will start somewhere in the 2nd year itself. Some students who are doing the 4-year degree will start somewhere in the 3rd year. So basically, the earlier you start, the better. Okay, because as students, you already have your studies to juggle, and you might be working. So it's very important to kind of prioritize your time accordingly and complete your application in time. Okay, so the first thing is obviously to look at requirements of the university. Does the university require me to give, the GRE? Some universities might also ask you for the GRE subject. So look at that, register well in time, because these test dates get filled really fast. Okay, there are quite a few of those, but still you have to kind of, plan this out in advance. And the score is obviously not the only thing that the universities look at, but it is a very big factor in deciding your shortlist of universities. So try to give a good attempt at your tests in the first go itself. It's not advisable to keep repeating attempts at these tests. Okay, and it is up to the student to forward the test scores to the final list of institutions that you choose. The other thing that you will require is transcripts. Your college or university is responsible for giving you transcripts, which have to be sent to US universities. At EducationUSA centers across India, we do attestation for your transcripts as well, so you can use that service. Another thing is to get your recommendation letters in time, and it is not advisable that students write their own letters of recommendations. We understand that sometimes in India you have to do that, but if a situation like this arises, please do not write it yourself and get somebody else to write it for you. Okay, and of course, a very important and a very challenging aspect of the application is the statement of purpose and other essays. Attend sessions on our essay. We have these amazing workshops that we do for essay writing, and we have a lot of books in the library, and we also do reviews of essays for students. Now, the package can vary as per university. Please remember that there is no fixed set of requirements for all universities in the US, and universities can differ on their requirements. So, of course, standardized tests is something that most international students will have to give, but there are schools that do not require it. So, please check. Then, of course, you have to submit your mark sheets and transcripts, attested mark sheets and transcripts. You require to write essays. Now, for subjects like journalism and communication, where communication skills is such an important factor, universities will sometimes have supplementary essays that you'll have to write, which are, say, related to the field or related to particular, things like why this university, or what is it that you plan to do after you've completed this degree. So it could be very specific to your particular area of subject. So supplementary essays might be there. For things like, say, broadcast media, some things like radio or television, some universities will also ask you for certain media pieces. So it's very important to see if there are any supplementary components that you have to submit with your application, and in what format. Letters of recommendation at the grad level, Universities can vary in terms of how many letters they want. Some universities will ask you for, say, 2, some might even go up to 3, and some might even stick to just 1. So choose your recommenders very carefully. Choose people who can actually talk about you and who can give a qualitative analysis of, your work, etc. So it's very important to choose your recommenders carefully. Another thing that you have to submit is a resume. So a resume in the American format. We also have sessions for the same. So you can attend a session to see how you can write and submit a resume. Okay. Eventually, towards the end of the year, you will also have to submit financial documents. Again, like I mentioned, there are certain documents that are acceptable by US universities. Please get in touch with the university websites to see what it is and attend one of our sessions on proof of finances. Now, at the grad level, every student has to apply. When you're applying to, say, 5 universities, you'll have to fill out respective forms for each of these universities. So there is no common application form as such. So you'll have to do individual application forms and pay an application fee for each of these colleges. Now, if you're going for a PhD program or an integrated program sometimes, which is related to, which is a master's plus PhD, you'll also sometimes have to give some sort of proof of research. Have you done any research in the past? Do you have any research experience, etc.? Also, in the form for PhD students, it's a good idea to communicate with the professors and see which professor could be a potential supervisor by looking at their areas of research. And also, in some cases, PhD students also get interviewed by the university. So again, students, please check the university requirements because it can differ from university to university. Now, once you have submitted your application and the hard work is really just done, then you can apply for a student visa once you get your admits from US universities. So somewhere in March, April, if you're applying for a fall intake, you will start getting admits or your decisions from US universities. So compare your decisions and take a final call and ask for an I-20, a form called the I-20. You have to request for the I-20 from the university that you're interested in and keen on applying to and attending, and get that I-20. On the basis of that I-20, then will you apply for your visa. Okay, and remember, students, you require just one I-20 from one university. So get it from the university that you're really keen on attending, and you can apply for your visa 120 days before your program starts, and you can travel to the United States 30 days before your program starts. There will be a visa interview, and Education USA basically hosts visa sessions by US Embassy consular officers. So when you're in time for doing your visas, please attend those sessions as well. And now for the fun bit where you're actually done with everything, you have your visa, then you start to prepare for your departure. Get organized, gather all your important documents, because that is very, very crucial that you have all of those in place. Look for accommodation. Some of you can look for on campus, off campus. Grad students usually live off campus, but some universities do provide on campus housing as well. So, look at those options. Attend one of our pre-departure orientations where you get to meet students who are, just like you, traveling to the United States. You'll also get to hear from our alumni and students who are currently studying in the United States and get useful tips from them. And of course, make travel arrangements and finally leave for the university, for the US. Now, here are some useful websites that you can use specifically for programs in journalism and communication. The first one out there is the Occupational Outlook Handbook. This is something that is by the US Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor and Statistics, it's called, BLS. And they have something called the Occupational Outlook Handbook. Personally, this is something that I really find useful because it gives you careers and subject areas in the United States and what does it mean to, what's the scope of the career, what does the subject look like, what will you be studying, market trends, things like that. So it's very important to kind of go through this particular website and understand and get an idea, like an overview for that particular subject area that you're interested in. For accreditation, like we mentioned, chea.org, chia.org is a website that you should look at to see if your program and university is accredited. Scholarships.com for scholarships related to journalism and communication. There are specific subject areas that you can search for. Then there's Society for Professional Journalists, Knight Foundation. There's quite a few of those. Neiman Foundation, Journalist Toolbox. These are important, useful websites that you can look at if you're interested in studying communications and journalism, these kind of programs in the United States. Okay, I'll put this slide up again, but we'll just go to the next one for now, and we'll start with the questions shortly. You can connect with Education USA. We have a host of services that we provide our students. Like I told you, we have financial aid tables, we have profiles of admitted students, we have access to test preparation material, so GRE, GMAT, TOEFL, it's all available in our libraries. You can access our libraries as well. sorry. We do specialized sessions on 5 steps and anything around the 5 steps. So it could be, proof of finances someday, it could be OPT, CPT one day, it could be on statement of purpose on another day. So these sessions happen through the year. And we have our Friday webinars that we bring to you every Friday at 4 o'clock. It's a regular feature with Education USA. So please keep, log in and check out what are the other subjects that are coming up. And we host a lot of US universities at our center. So if it's your chance to actually come and talk to these admissions officers, talk to them about things that you probably do not find on their websites. Talk to them about what kind of students get admitted to your university, funding opportunities. Okay. And then we obviously have a fair every year. We organize our fairs in September, October. And we also do something called the Alumni Fair. And we have sessions by the US Embassy officers and our pre-departure orientations. You can find us on our website, our center details, etc., and services. We have 2 websites, educationusa.state.gov and our USIF website, usia.org.in. We also have a toll-free line where you can access from anywhere in India. This toll-free line is from 2 to 5 every Monday to Friday. You can just call us up and talk to an advisor. And please get in touch with our centers. We have 7 centers in India, and find the nearest one to help you with your US university applications. Students, now I'll take questions. Please type in your questions in the chat box on the and we will take them one by one.
Thank you so much, Astha, for the very informative webinar. Now, students, as Astha said, we would be happy to take your questions. Please, on the right side of your screen, and we'll be taking your questions one by one.
Students, we'll be happy to take any questions on today's topic or any other questions on the 5 steps. Yes, Sneha, we do have sessions on computer science. In fact, actually, we've had a couple of them already in the past, and we may have a few lined up in the coming months as well. You can just sign up with us. You can, or just register with us to get updates on all our sessions. So then you can accordingly attend which ones you want to attend. And the ones, we record all our Friday sessions. So you can actually go to our YouTube channel, which is Education USA India, and access the recorded sessions. Obviously, the advantage of a live session is that you can ask questions here today. But on the recorded ones, you can certainly listen to our recording and then maybe ask us questions later. So we've done sessions on computer science. Next, please. Would a 3-year BMM degree be accepted for Masters in Journalism and Public Relations? Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. We do get this question very often, that would a 3-year bachelor's program be would you be eligible for a master's program in the United States, whether it is for journalism or any other subject? Now, what happens is that yes, some universities, as a rule, yes, they follow the 16th year rule, where a lot of universities will require you to have a 4-year bachelor's. But many a times, what we do notice is that there are universities that accept students with the 15th year as well. We advise students to write to a few universities to check with the universities what are their requirements. You can let them know about your degree, what you've studied, etc., and they will let you know whether you can apply or not. In case you cannot apply with the 3-year program, the other thing that you can do is a lot of students will apply, or enroll into a master's program in India, and after 1 year they will, then apply for a master's in the United States. So after having done your first year of masters, or you can also go in for a PG diploma, which is for a year. But please remember that it is advisable to do these degrees or diplomas from a recognized university in India, so that it's easier for you to transfer and apply to a master's program in the United States. Next question, please. Yes, bachelor's and master's students have the STEM extension. So basically, if you're on a full-time degree program in the United States and you're on the F1 visa, you are eligible to have the STEM extension if your course of study comes under STEM. Okay, so your one of your subjects has to be under that category. The website of the university will let you know if it's a STEM subject. Also, the Department of Homeland Security, their website has a list. It's a comprehensive list of all degrees and courses in the United States that come under the extension, the STEM extension. So please check that out as well. Next question, please. Okay. Does mass communication PhD degree require any working experience? Now, it depends on what you call working experience. See, if you're applying for a PhD program, usually universities will look for relevant research experience or relevant work experience as well. So it could be, it might not be a compulsory requirement for a lot of universities, but it certainly adds value and it adds, to your profile if you do have any relevant experience. It could be in research, it could be work experience, it will only add to your resume. So while it is not compulsory in many universities, it can definitely be a big advantage in your resume. So please check the university websites to see if it's a compulsory requirement. Yes, so we have that website, the link up for the document on the STEM extension subjects. So please have a look at that. Thank you, Aditi. Next question, please. Can I submit SAT 2 test scores of October month? Okay, so this is a question that is not related to today's topic, but basically, see, you have to look at the early action deadline and see if the university, see if you can send in your scores by that time. In case it's a little late by maybe a week or two, some universities, some only, will allow you to send their test scores. But please check with the university and let them know of the actual estimate of when the scores will be received. Most universities would like you to finish and submit everything before the deadline. Next question, please. This is a question for an undergraduate program. So early action is something that is not relevant to graduate studies. May I get the website where sessions related to computer science are available? Also wanted to know how to decide that comprise the course we want. Yes, so there are a few websites that you can, go on to look for universities. So one of them is petersons.com and the other is gradschools.com. So you can actually start your school search from these websites, and it'll help you narrow down, the colleges and the universities that offer your particular program. But before that, like I told you, please do look at the Define Your Priorities worksheet and define your factors, which will then help you to narrow down universities as well. Okay, and the website where you can get recorded sessions, it's basically just a YouTube channel. The channel's name is Education USA India. So you just have to go onto YouTube, find Education USA India, and subscribe to that particular channel. Then you can get access to all our recorded sessions. Thank you. Next question, please. Okay, we have another question. You have 2 or 3 articles published. Can these independent publications be added to the resume? Most definitely, Brinda, you should be adding them to your resume, especially if you're looking to get a program in research or academia. It would be very, very useful and an advantage to your profile if you add these. Next question. For undergraduate programs, do the universities have a broad spectrum as graduation programs? You mean in terms of choices? It's unbelievable the number of the spectrum that they have in terms of what you can study. So yes, I would say the answer to that is yes. In fact, there are a lot of choices at undergrad level. And it becomes very increasingly important for students to choose their universities very, very carefully then. Do we have any other questions, Aditi? Okay, students, we have about 5 minutes left. So if you have any questions, now is the time to ask them. You can always mail us for any other queries that you may have, or call us and visit our center. Do get in touch with our individual centers to know the timings, and if you require an appointment or it's a walk-in session. That's our email address. For any queries that you may want to send to us, we will respond. Okay, we have a question. My master's dissertation project will be considered. Yes, in fact, you should be mentioning your master's dissertation project as well. See, a lot of times where these things can factor in, a lot of students will talk about this particular, their dissertation project in their statement of purpose. Okay, because sometimes for a lot of students, this is a very big determinant of why they now want to do a, say, PhD or doctorate program, like study further in the United States. So a dissertation project will definitely be you'll have to include it in your application. And they will look at various factors. So remember, students, universities in the US are not just looking at 1 or 2 factors, and there is no weightage that is given to any one particular factor. They look at your entire profile as a whole. The US universities admissions basically believe in a very holistic review of applications. So yes, your GRE, your essays, letters of recommendations, your academic scores, all of this combined, and your experience, then determines whether you get an admission and even then a scholarship. So they are going to be looking at all these important factors. So any relevant experience that you may have had in terms of internships, academic projects, dissertations that you may have done, any work experience, any volunteer work which is related to your field of study, definitely you should include and talk about it. It could be in your statement of purpose or it could be in your resume, but it will feature into your application. Is a resume required for undergraduate level or just statement of purpose? So there's a question, Arya. So at the undergraduate level, a resume is not a compulsory requirement. At the grad level, yes, most universities will require the resume. What happens at the undergraduate level is that some students do add a resume along with their application, but only put it in if it's going to say something, new about you, or it's going to give another angle to your application. It's not a requirement, a compulsory one. And a statement of purpose is something that students will write for a graduate program. So the undergraduate students write something called the essays or the personal essays. So it is a little different from the statement of purpose, the undergraduate essay. And we do very extensive sessions on how an undergraduate essay is written. Okay, so please watch out for that and attend one of those sessions. All right, students, so if you have No more. I think we're done with our questions for today. Thank you, students, for attending, our webinar on communications and journalism programs in the United States. Please, sign up with us to keep updated on all our upcoming sessions. Thank you so much.